Okay, so hello everyone. We are the French American Chamber of Commerce of San Francisco. We were supposed to be live today, but there seems to be an issue with the streaming. But we still have with us Veronica from Vanguard Properties. Just before we start, so the French American Chamber of Commerce in San Francisco is a nonprofit, non-governmental company. We engage and foster the French American business community, and we help French companies settle in the Bay Area. So again, today with us, we have one of our newest members. So hi, Veronica.
Hi, Anne-Emmanuel.
Again, sorry for this live stream that's becoming a simple stream, but can you tell us first a little bit about yourself, maybe?
Well, of course. So I was actually born in San Francisco, but I had a bicultural upbringing because I lived in Russia for the first 12 years of my life in Far East Russia. So I went to school in Russia, and then I came back to the Bay Area when I was 12, and I studied in the suburbs. And then I finally returned to my hometown, San Francisco, for college. And I just stayed here, and I'm just very happy to be back here. You know, I never knew, being born in San Francisco, that I was so lucky, because this is where the startup ecosystem is. There's so much diversity, so many people to learn from here. It's awesome. I love living here, and I love helping people buy homes here, because I think there's just so much to love here.
Yeah, true. And can you tell us a little bit about Vanguard Properties? Where are they located? What are your typology of clients?
Of course, Vanguard Properties is pretty local. We're actually founded in San Francisco, and we've grown a lot, especially in the last few years. Right now, we have about 400 agents, and we have 4 offices in San Francisco, and we have many offices all over the Bay Area, in Marin, in the East Bay. We're actually working on growing our East Bay presence. And I love Vanguard because we have all the resources of bigger companies, while we still have some very collaborative atmosphere and culture. The culture at Vanguard is amazing, with agents giving each other tips, helping each other out. And the leadership team is very approachable. Like, I love that. I go out on tour and I see some, the leadership team there, and they always say hello to me, and I just feel very welcome. The reason I joined Vanguard was because when I got my license, first I worked at a local boutique brokerage in Walnut Creek, but then I was living in San Francisco, so it made more sense to find a brokerage based in San Francisco. And so then I walked into a Vanguard office, and they were just so welcoming. Even though I didn't have an appointment, the manager sat down with me for an hour and explained how everything works. And I'm just like, this is the one. Like, I'm joining this brokerage because they made time for me. They made me feel welcome.
Well, that's great. And so before we go into any other question, I think the main question is, how is the housing market today? We've heard so much stuff. It's going down. People are leaving the Bay Area, and then no houses being bought in minutes. So where do we stand today?
Well, right now the market has calmed down from like the spring and summer craziness. Seasonality is that September is always hot. It's always where new listings are coming on. So buyers are happy right now because there's finally more inventory. During the spring and summer, we really didn't have enough inventory, and that's why homes were getting 20 offers or being sold in a couple of days. Now it's definitely calmer, but the latest statistic is still that 91% of single family homes are sold in 30 days or less. So that market is still super, super strong, but homes are getting less multiple offers. They're still getting multiple offers, but now they're getting 4 instead of 8. And that's because some buyers just don't want to deal with the competition. Homes in the higher price range above 2 million are only getting 1 offer, some of them, just because, buyers don't want to have to pay $500,000 more than the list price. And the condo market is still lagging behind a bit. 69% of condos are going into contract within 30 days. And it very depends on the type of condo. The ones with outdoor space, parking in the smaller buildings, 2 to 4 unit buildings, those are selling pretty well. But the high rises in downtown and Soma are still lagging behind, just because, we really expected people to come back to the office in September, but that hasn't happened. People really fell in love with the flexibility in working from home, and they want to continue that. So it'll be really interesting to see how that evolves, whether people will return to the office, because I'm interested to see what happens with all those buildings.
Yeah. And so you've seen that trend of people moving slightly away from downtown San Francisco and asking for a green space like a garden or a terrace, a balcony or something that's still happening.
Yes, it is. There's still a lot of people moving to different neighborhoods within San Francisco because every neighborhood is so different. It has its own vibe. And for example, where I live near the Panhandle. We have so many parks around that it doesn't even feel like I'm living in the city. And I love that. And I think a lot of people are also attracted to that. And also, I do work in the East Bay, and the East Bay is still booming pretty well because a lot of people moved out of the city to Marin and the East Bay to just live the suburban life. A lot of them are coming back though. It's interesting because when the COVID was in full force and everything was closed, everyone moved out to the suburbs and to other states. But a lot of those people actually came back once the restaurants and the nightlife, the cultural events opened up because they want to live in the city ultimately. They want to go out more. And in the suburbs, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And going back to, so I once arrived here and started looking for a home, and the way it worked in France was very different to the way it works here. Can you describe how really the housing market works here, or some of the tips that you may have for either people selling or for people looking for a house?
Of course, yes, I have a couple of tips for buyers and sellers. For buyers, the number one tip is to start working with a lender as soon as possible, and actually know a couple of great lenders who speak French, so I can definitely connect you. But your lender will help you get pre-approved for a loan, and that's the first thing you should do before you start looking for a home, because then you know exactly how much you can afford, so you don't have to waste your time. Because if you don't get pre-approved, you may fall in love with a home you can't afford, and obviously you don't want that to happen, so you need to have that pre-approval letter. Also, it helps to work with a lender when there is an extremely hot market like we had in the spring or summer. Buyers were getting their loan fully underwritten before offering. That way they could compete with cash buyers, because cash buyers' greatest advantage is the short close of escrow, only 7 or 10 days. But if you get your loan completely pre-approved with the lender, you can also close in 7 or 10 days. So that gives you a big leg up. And your lender will also help you explain the process for you along with your real estate agent, because it really is a team effort. It's your lender, your real estate agent, also the escrow team. So I think the nice part about the real estate market in America is that you have a lot of people working with you, helping you out, getting your directions. So you're not all alone trying to figure it all out. You have a whole team of support around you.
Mm. And
Oh,
how
and
about,
also,
so yeah, sorry.
oh, sorry, I was just going to add a tip for real estate sellers. So for sellers, I guess a great tip is about pricing. You always want to price your property either at market value or slightly below, not too much below, because that will, get you a crazy bidding war. I mean, do you really want like 60 offers? But slightly below, so that more buyers will be enticed to buy your property. A lot of sellers make the mistake of testing the market, of pricing their property very high, and that the property sits on market for months and months. And then, the longer it sits, the more people think there's something wrong with it. So it's best to just get the pricing right the first time, so you don't have to do any reductions and you can sell it quickly.
Mm. And do you have noticed like some, because there's a lot of different cultures in the Bay Area, lots of different nationalities. Have you noticed some very strange or funny like approaches depending on the nationality of the people looking for houses or selling houses?
Oh, yes, I have. I've worked with a couple of French people and Russian people as well, and they're just kind of a bit more reluctant to pay for staging and the upgrades before selling their home, because they want to save money. They don't really, even when I explain to them, if you put in more money into it before you sell, you can make more money out of it. But they're like, no, we just want to sell. Like, we don't want to stage. We don't want to do any repairs because that's additional money. And also, I've noticed a lot of people being surprised at some of the closing costs, like the escrow fee, the title fee. And that's, that all of those fees are a small percentage, but they do add up. And so a lot of people are surprised at the kind of recurring costs, the closing costs that they don't expect. But with a right agent, your agent should explain all of that to you beforehand, so you factor into your budget.
And actually, jumping back to what you said just before, the staging, that's really big here, right? You visit homes that are fully, furnished, but it's staging. It's not the real furniture, right?
Yeah, it is, and it looks so much different because it's kind of like seeing, something in a store. It looks very new and clean and untouched, and that's kind of how these staged homes look like. They look like prize homes because no one's living in there. You can't see the mess, the dirty dishes, and that's what also makes it appealing. This clean, pristine look, and it helps buyers to imagine how they would live in the property. And a lot of staging is very neutral too, like it's either modern or neutral, so there's not really the style isn't too eclectic, and that way it attracts a wide variety of buyers and helps them imagine themselves in the home.
And actually, do you have buyers that would, when they buy a home, ask to keep the staging furniture and that also
Yes.
buy that?
Yes, I've actually had that before, and some stagers are very happy about it, and they actually allow the buyers to buy the furniture, but it does come with an additional price.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And so are you allowed to disclose? I'm sure you have some gossips about funny stories or extravagant questions or requests that you have. Could you disclose a couple maybe?
Well, yeah, I have a funny story actually with buyers who bought a house and they were going to get two estimates from two different general contractors on the repairs, and they staggered their appointments so the guys wouldn't see each other because it would be kind of awkward. One was supposed to come at 2 p.m. and the other one was supposed to come at 3 p.m. But then the first general contractor was super late. He came 45 minutes late so that he came, and then 10 minutes later the next guy came. So they had to like be together and kind of compete with each other, say, oh, I could do this for this amount. Oh, no, I could do this for less. And it was pretty awkward because they weren't supposed to know that, these people were consulting different contractors. And that was funny.
Well, I guess it turned out good for the buyer who probably got the best deal out of it.
Yes, they did.
And the I was also wondering, again, going back to the cultural differences, what types of house are people buying? Is it really different depending on nationality, or is everyone looking for the same type of home? Can you see a real difference here?
No, I actually can't. A lot of people, depending, not depending on the nationality, kind of want, it more depending on their stage of life. If they're growing a family, they definitely want like a bigger condominium, at least 2 bedrooms, like ideally 3, or a single family home. Sometimes they're willing to go outside of San Francisco to get that. But I know a lot of families like to go to Noe Valley in District 5 where I live because there's more space, and usually homes have some kind of outdoor space like a shared garden. And if they're just, a young single person, they're fine with living in a studio or 1 bedroom.
Yeah. And so this is not really for within San Francisco, I'm guessing more in the other parts of the Bay Area, but we see a lot of houses being actually torn down completely and rebuilt from scratch. That's something that seems to be progressing, right?
Yes, it's actually there's a whole industry on it. It's called like fix and flip. There's people that are making a lot of money from buying, fixer houses, torn down houses, not torn down, but they're very decrepit, they're ready to be torn down. And then they hire a team of professionals to tear it down, rebuild it, and then they sell it for a profit. And sometimes, they just keep it to themselves. They just build their dream home and they keep it for their own family. But other people, like that's their business. They buy these, decrepit houses, they tear them down, build new ones, and then sell them. There's development companies all over the Bay Area specializing in exactly that. I was just contacted by a developer the other day saying, oh, do you have fixers for me? I have a budget up to 2 million. I can buy anywhere in the Bay Area, offer a quick close, all cash, so I can rebuild it and sell it. So it's really cool. A lot of people actually make that their business.
So it's not only personal, people, it's also companies that do that and make a business out of it. Because I was starting to wonder if it's maybe worse actually getting a house and then, tearing it apart and rebuilding from scratch. How can that be cost effective? But yeah, maybe it's for a lot of companies as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That would explain it. Anyway, do you have anything else that you would like to tell us about your business or what you do?
Oh, let's see. I think I do want to mention how I know French just because, it is the French American Chamber of Commerce, and I don't think I mentioned that yet. So I learned French about 13 years ago, starting in middle school, and I just kept learning it. Every year I practice every day. I go to all kinds of French events. And the reason I learned French is actually very kind of a touching story. My mom really liked French music, and she wanted me to learn French so I can translate it for her. And so I did. And then I myself fell in love with the language, the culture, the history. When I was in college, I took a course on the history of Paris, and I really learned how important that city was culturally to a lot of different people. I mean, I think France is amazing. I love how there are so many Francophone countries in the world, and I hope to visit them all someday. And I think that Europeans definitely have a bon vivant attitude. I really love how they're able to have gatherings and to slow down when they eat. Like, I love how they have long lunches, and I'm really happy that we have such a big French community in San Francisco. Hopefully they can influence us more and help us slow down a bit and enjoy our lives.
And I can attest, because I've seen you, that you do speak very good French.
Oh, merci.
We've had good conversations, so yeah, I can testify to say that it's true. Maybe a last question that's kind of non-related, but do you have any plans for the weekend since we're Friday?
Oh, yes, I'm actually going to meet a friend. Well, I don't know her yet, but she goes to University of San Francisco where I went, and she's also studying business, and she's part of the same region of Russia that I'm from. And so I'm really excited to meet someone from that part of Russia, because I did grow up like near Siberia, so it's pretty rare for someone from all the way out there to find themselves here. So I'm really excited to get to know her.
Oh, great. Well, good for you. And it's supposed to be a sunny weekend, so you might enjoy a nice gathering.
Yes, it's finally summer in San Francisco.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today to speak to our audience. And we'll see you soon. And thank you everyone for listening. And bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.